Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. I am so excited to welcome Dana Drahos to the pod. She is a ceremonialist, a womb keeper, a guide for women on the path of sacred reconnection with their body, the earth, and God. She helps women heal hormonal imbalances, come off of birth control, prepare their wombs for conscious conception through ancestral wisdom, feminine embodiment, and spiritual healing. I felt called to invite Dana on the podcast today because she put out a story that immediately I knew I had to respond to. She was sharing that she was on a journey of kind of reclaiming her relationship with God and going through this journey of being raised as an atheist, then going to New Age spirituality, and then coming back to wholeness. And if I'm being really transparent, at this point, I wasn't sure if I was even going to bring back the podcast, but seeing that story just felt like a confirmation and that I needed to have Dana on. So I am so excited to welcome Dana.
Thank you so much, Kalina. I'm so excited to be on, and it's just so beautiful the way that it happened so serendipitously like that. And yeah, it's just for everyone's knowledge, this is my first time ever really sharing this story. So there's some nervousness, but a lot of excitement. And I just pray that this lands, in the hearts and ears of the people who are ready to hear it. And I know that it will. So yeah.
Yeah, I trust that too. And I also just want to commend and reflect back to you your bravery for being open to not only share your story, but also to be on this podcast. For background information, Dana and I have never met. We've never had a conversation besides like in the DMs.
Mhm.
And for you to trust this space and to be willing to share your story, especially a story that's talking about something so personal, and also something that can be hard to talk about. I just really want to reflect back to you just how brave you are and how commendable that is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. I wanted to actually start off with what made you want to share the story? Like, where did this call come from? Because, like I just said, it's something that is so personal and so many people, I think, can relate to this journey of navigating from two ends of the spectrum in spirituality and then
Hmm.
finding your wholeness, finding what resonates for you. And I think so many of us are on this journey and have been back and forth between the spectrums. And I'm just really curious of what how was this on your heart to share and why now?
Mm. That's such a beautiful question. Thank you for asking that. Um, what immediately popped into mind was, have you ever like been the first person in the relationship to say, I love you?
No, I haven't, but I like where this is going.
Okay. For those who have, and maybe even who haven't, like to me, in both relationships I've had, I've been the first person to say it. And it's just this like overwhelming feeling of like, I can't not say it. Like if I go, like I can't go one more day not expressing this truth, or I'm like, I feel like I'm going to explode. And so that's how it's felt, like just this feeling of love of like, if I don't say this, if I don't share this story, like it's just bursting out of me, like I'm gonna explode. And it really just feels like that call from God of like, now's the time, like stop hiding, stop like diluting your words and kind of like pretending like you're not where you are, like this is where you are. Um, it's safe to come out and share this now. Like people are open and willing to hear it. And I just know for me, like I'm so thankful for the people who did this for me, like who were brave enough to step out there and share their stories because I, obviously received from that, and it has put me on this whole life-changing path that I'm so grateful for. So I just hope that I can be a piece of someone else's story.
Why was that making me want to tear up? First of all, that is such a beautiful answer. Um, and I think it's just a powerful reminder for anyone listening, whether it's about spirituality or your relationship with God or whatever it is, your story is so powerful and it's needed. And I love that you just shared that it's almost like paying it forward to those who have been brave enough to share their story that gave you that empowerment and that reclamation in a way. I think is so special. And it's just a beautiful reminder is there's so much power in sharing our story where I think sometimes we think, "Well, who cares? Why would anybody want to
Mhm.
listen to this?" It's like,
Yeah.
okay, there's a reason. There's a reason you've gone
Hmm.
through it and now are feeling the call to share.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So big.
Mm.
So I know you hinted when we were chatting about how you were raised atheist and
Mhm.
kind of your journey through that. So I thought it would make sense we start there and you can share kind of what was the groundwork, what was laid out before you when it came to your relationship with God and with spirituality.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I don't know if I've ever really met someone else who was like literally raised atheist. Usually it's the opposite where people were raised super religious and they were so like turned off by it that they then separated from God. Um, for me, my dad was raised in the Catholic Church, and he even at one point in his, I think, late teens, early 20s was found himself in some kind of cult. Even to this day, he's like, it wasn't a cult, it was a fellowship of certain beliefs. I'm like, okay, so the literal definition of a cult. But yeah, like, so he was deep in that and like believing and all the things, very involved. And it's a little fuzzy to me, like exactly where and when the separation began. When I ask him, he's just like, because it's stupid. Like I realize it's stupid and it's all man-made. And he's just a man of few words and it doesn't like share too much. But I do remember one time hearing when I was younger, I know that when he was probably 17 or something, he was driving while drunk. Well, he wasn't driving. His friend was driving. They were both drunk and high, and they crashed, and his friend died. And my dad obviously lived, but he like broke everything in his body. And I know that he has like carried a lot of guilt from that.
Hmm.
And I remember hearing at some point in my childhood that he had said he started questioning like if there is a God, like why would he allow such tragedies to happen? Like why this friend and not me? Like why am I still alive? And this friend, 17, so young. So it feels like there was something there and uh yeah, but I don't know exactly his story, but what I grew up with and around was him saying constantly like religious people are stupid, um, believing in God is like crazy and there's nothing out there. There's nothing that happens after we die. It's all meaningless. That was the messaging I heard. He even had like bumper stickers on his car, like religion is myth information and all that kind of thing. Um, and on my mom's side, uh, she is, we are Jewish by blood, by ancestry. And I actually just this weekend asked her, like, where did Judaism get lost in your family line? Because she wasn't raised Jewish growing up, neither was her mom. I think maybe her grandma was, but she said that her grandfather wanted to purchase a General Motors franchise when he came to America. And at the time, and still now, but at the time, there was like really a lot of discrimination towards Jewish people. So he actually changed his first name. He still had a Jewish last name, so I don't know like what that did, but he to assimilate, like let go of the Jewish religion and just wanted to blend in and just totally separate from that so that he could be accepted in the business world. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, so there was just on both sides of the family a lot of separation and loss through, discrimination and trauma and tragedy. Um, and so for me, you know, I agreed with my dad's viewpoints, like kind of having that drilled into my brain. Like that's how I perceive the world as well. I was like, yeah, it is stupid. Like, why would I submit to some like man in the sky, some like angry man in the sky? And my most of my encounters with religious people was, oh, if you don't believe this, you're going to hell. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make me want to come closer to you or to
Yeah.
God. Like that makes me want to run away. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, how could there be this? How are you telling me like God loves me, but also if I don't like believe in these things that I'm gonna go to hell forever? It just did not like the math was not mathing in
Yeah.
my head. Um, and yeah, so that's what I believed for a long time.
Wow. I feel like you just illustrated so well of how our beliefs are inherited
Yeah.
and how important it is to kind of look back at, is this mine or not? Because even like with what you were saying, it wasn't even just your parents. Like you could see the generations of how it got lost and how it changed and how it adapted and why it makes so much sense why your parents had those different beliefs, right? And
Mhm.
so I think it can be really helpful if you are, whether it's about religion or not, questioning what your beliefs are, is ask yourself, is this even mine? Is this even true
Mhm.
for me? Because we inherit so much already. And
Mhm.
even like what you were saying, you had that of like, yeah, why would I believe that? And you had the confirmation of like this fear mongering of if you do, if you don't, you go to hell. So like, why would I want to believe that? And
Mhm.
it makes so much sense. So thank you
Mhm.
for illustrating that so beautifully. And it's so cool to see the generations as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
So being raised that way, how, not that way as in it's bad, but just in a way where you were kind of in the opposite of what so many people experience, which is like the ultra religion.
Mhm.
How do you feel like that led you to this new age spirituality?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So let's see. So for many years, I would say up until I was 26, I was really living in a state of numbing myself from what I didn't realize was, I guess we could call it the father wound. My dad was also, I think, because of those beliefs and because of not, believing that like nothing matters and whatever. I mean, he's like the most negative, pessimistic person I've ever met. He's very difficult for me to be around even still. He's just like so negative and he said a lot of hurtful things to me in my childhood. So I, but I, at that point, I didn't have any framework of understanding about childhood trauma or like father wound or anything like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that that was the pain that I was numbing myself to. And also, like in this society, it's so normalized to binge drink and smoke weed and have casual sex. So I was doing all the things. I was like drinking a lot, smoking weed every day. I was on birth control, so I was really numb to my cycle and my emotions. I was like, had disordered eating patterns. I was a perfectionist. I was a workaholic, like all these things, casual sex, like all these things that were so disconnected from myself, but not realizing it at the time, right? And then around 26, I was living in Vietnam at the time. I was teaching English in Vietnam and I was starting my first business as a freelance podcast producer. So I was starting this entrepreneurial path. And I'm sure for those listening who have been on the entrepreneurial path, you find that all your wounds like really start to come up for you
Yeah.
to see and to alchemize. And so that's what was happening. I started, really looking at the patterns in my life and being like, huh, I'm the common denominator here. Like, what is this? And started, reading the books and learning about childhood trauma and like emotionally distant fathers and like what that does to our psyche. And I'm in Vietnam, so I'm getting exposure to the spiritual community basically, and like people are being put on my path as these mentors and guides. I start meditating. I got into Reiki. I like all the new age kind of thing. I start learning about law of attraction, and we can manifest and create our own reality. And yeah, so I'm getting into all that. And I also I got off birth control. I started like nourishing my body, living in sync with my cycle, learning about nervous system regulation, somatic embodiment, like all the things, all the healing modalities. And it helped. Like my physical health was so much better than it had ever been in my life. My whole life, I feel like I was in this fog, this like brain fog. I thought that I was just a tired person. Like I thought it was just my personality that I don't have energy and some other people do have energy and I just don't. Like that's what I thought. And then I started like actually feeling better and like grounded in my body, connected to my womb. And I was like, oh, that wasn't just who I am as a person. Like I actually was not well.
I've never related to anything more.
Yeah. Um, so all that was good. And then flash forward, I moved to Austin, Texas. And in this part of the country, you naturally start getting exposed to more like Christian people. And the first friend that I met here was the first person to ever like speak to me about God in a way that was not judgmental, was not threatening. She didn't say anything about if you don't believe this, you're going to hell. She just like simply was sharing her truth in a very like, you know, she wasn't trying to like convince me of anything. She was just sharing her story. And her story as well was she had this very difficult relationship with her father. I don't think her father was even in her life at all. So she had said to me that like relationship with God to her was healing because it was finally this like safe masculine figure that provided this like protection, provision, love that she could actually connect to. And I was like, oh, interesting. Um, so that's where was kind of like a turning point for me, but I want to stop there and for you to just check in and see, if there's anything you want to say.
Yeah, there's so much I want to say.
Yeah.
I relate so much to your story of when you were 26 and that kind of awakening in sorts where you're like, okay, is this it? And then having, like when you said, I just thought I was one of those people who didn't have energy. It's like, no,
Hmm.
actually, you're so dysregulated, you're disconnected. I got off birth control when I was 28, which was like the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just totally relate to that. And I'm just curious of if there was something that led you to that moment, because for you to be in Vietnam surrounded by, amazing mentors and kind of like you said, the people that showed up on your path, was there something that led you to going to Vietnam? Like was there this knowing of going there and you would receive that? Or was there a moment while you were in Vietnam where it was kind of like you started to realize this isn't it and it's time to
Mm-hmm.
reconnect? What was it for you?
Yeah. So I always had a pretty disconnected relationship with my cycle, which also came from a moment with my dad on my first period. He was the first person that I told that I got my period. And with a look of disgust, he was like, I really didn't need to hear that. And so it kind of planted this seed of, oh, am I not supposed to talk about my period? Like people think it's gross, it's like shameful. So I felt all this shame and disconnection in my body. I hated my period. It was really heavy, really painful. So I gladly went on birth control when I was probably 18, and I wanted to have sex with my boyfriend at the time and not worry about it. I was very glad to not have my period. And it was, yeah, also around 27 for me that I just started to, I had gone through so many different kinds of birth control. Like I tried every single kind because each kind, like depression, anxiety, like all the symptoms. And I kept going to the doctor and they're like, we just need to find you the right one. And we would just go from,
Classic.
yeah, different kind to different kind. Nothing changed. And I'm like, this, like these symptoms have to be related and there has to be a better way. And I just was like, I hadn't had my period in 3 years. Not that the period on birth control is even a real period anyway, but I didn't know that at the time. But I was on the IUD for 3 years, didn't have my period at all. And I just started to feel weird. Like I just started to feel off. I was like, I don't feel like a woman anymore. Like something's missing. Just felt like something was missing. And I was like, yeah, I need to come off the birth control. And so yeah, that was that decision there. And the coming to Vietnam, yeah, I had always wanted to live abroad growing up, like just something in my heart was like, that's something you need to do. And I never really, there was no job that I like wanted. Like the concept of job and working just did not light me up or resonate in any way. And I did work in New York City at an advertising agency for my first 2.5 years out of college. And it was a very work hard, play hard culture. There was cocaine, there was Adderall, there was like a keg in the office. Like it was just a lot of partying. And I I was just looking to the people who were, the people who I would become if I stayed on this path and like went up the corporate ladder. And I'm like, do I really want to be like these people? There's these like 40-year-olds who are still partying with me, this 23-year-old. And I'm like, that is just so lame. Like I don't want to be like that when I get to their age. And I didn't know what else, but it was just always so clear in me that I wanted to live abroad. And when I was researching different places, I just like heard the word Vietnam and something in my body just lit up and was like, that's the place. So
Wow.
just
Oh,
went there. Mhm.
I love that. I love a story on following the breadcrumbs and trusting that
Yeah.
knowing. And I also love what you said about the looking at people who are in your office who are down the like 10, 20 years down the road from you and realizing, hey, that doesn't feel aligned. And so I
Mhm.
think that's a great question we can come back to when we're wondering if this is the path for me or not, is looking, okay, in 10 years from now, is that where I want to be? And being
Mhm.
okay with it, not judging it as wrong or right or bad or good, but just like, hey, that doesn't feel aligned, so what does? And I love that you came back to a childhood like knowing you had of going abroad and having that
Mhm.
experience and then trusting that and it leading to such big shifts for you. That's
Mhm. Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, I want to get back onto your journey, but before that, I want to make a little pit stop and talk about getting off birth control.
Yeah, trying to like put myself back in that place. Similar in religion, there's like so much fear mongering around it. Like
Hmm.
it's actually not as scary as you think it's going to be. And the stories you hear of people coming off and like all these symptoms coming back with a vengeance, um, oftentimes those people didn't lay the proper groundwork of preparing their body to make this transition. So that's what I lead clients through. I would say rather than like just quitting cold turkey, give yourself a 3-month runway of preparing your body, nourishing your body, supporting your liver to detox the chemicals that are in your body. Um, supporting nervous system regulation, sleep, all of those kinds of things. And yeah, because birth control, we've been told that it's fixing our cycle and healing our period problems when really it's just this band-aid fix. Whatever was going on underneath the surface, which is usually around diet and lifestyle, and even the emotional and like psychological elements of that shame and disconnection from our womb, right? Like I hated my period. I hated, being a woman. And that lives in our psyche and impacts our biology. So it's more than also just like the physical preparation, but also the spiritual of treating this moment as the rite of passage that it is, of coming back to and reclaiming your cycle, reclaiming your body as a woman. So many of us did not get that, first period rite of passage that used to be, that our ancestors had, right? And I think that's another piece that our soul knows it's missing. Like you can
Mhm.
feel something is missing, and that is a huge part of this. Like we were never initiated into womanhood.
Wow.
And that is what creates all the disconnection and the separation from our body. Like imagine if we had had an experience where our elders, the women in our life are gathering around us and like telling, like preparing us, sharing their stories, like honoring our womb with such reverence. And instead we just get, oh, welcome to being a woman, like sucks to be here.
So
And
true.
yeah, and again, like that lives in our psyche and very much impacts our reality that we experience. So yeah, it's to me, it's really that preparation and treating the whole process as an initiation back into your womanhood, back into relationship with your womb.
Yeah, and almost like having that redo, like you were saying, from when we were
Mhm.
younger, when it first happened. I'm sure we all have our own stories and maybe even some trauma of when we first started our periods, and then like almost having that, yeah, that another chance at initiation, especially kind of reclaiming our womanhood and our cycle. Um,
Mhm.
I love that. And I love that visual of just imagining like our ancestors there and supporting us. And yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for sharing that and sharing your wisdom, because I know you have a wealth of knowledge and wisdom to share on that topic.
Mhm.
So thank you for that.
Mhm.
So you were in Vietnam. You
Mhm.
were being guided. You had different teachers. You were doing all the healing modalities. You were getting off birth control. You're starting to reconnect with yourself. And then you meet this friend who's speaking about God in a way where it doesn't feel like this man in the sky here to punish us.
Mhm.
So how
Mhm.
did that lead you to kind of how you see God now?
Yeah, yeah. So I met her in Austin. We had that conversation, and it definitely resonated with me of, oh yeah, like that seems like that could be something healing for me in terms of, my relationship with my father and healing the relationship with the masculine in general.
Mhm.
And so I don't know how long it was after that moment, but at some point, I believe it was last year, for the first time in my life, I willingly went to a church service. I had been other times in my life, but it was forced. Like if I was with my aunt or something and it was Easter and she's like, we're going. Um, this was the first time that I like willingly volunteered myself to go to church. I'm like, all right, let's check this out. And I walked away so disappointed and angry and frustrated because this particular church in Austin, it's called Red Rocks. They kind of position themselves to be like the hip, like cool church. It's like where the young attractive people go, honestly. Like that was another huge reason I went, because my friend was like, girl, there are hot men there who like want to settle down because they are, aligned with the values of all that. And I was like, okay, that you got me. Like, I'm going.
Better than the apps.
It was not about Jesus. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. And she was right. Yeah. Hot men there, hot women there, like everyone was just beautiful. I was like, wow. um but I was disappointed because the sermon or whatever it's called, like, was kind of the same that I, had always heard. It was very like Jesus is coming and you better be acting right, or,
Mm,
or this or that. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I thought this was going to be different. So then I'm like all confused for a few months, and I'm like, God, like, I want a relationship with you, but I don't get it. Like, this doesn't feel good in my body. Like, I was feeling so much anxiety where I was so worried, like, of every little thing I'm doing. I'm like, is this bad? Like, is this gonna put me in hell? Is this Satan? Like, is this deception, or is this of God? Like, I don't know. And I'm
hmm
so anxious, and I'm like, okay, if anxiety is the primary emotion I'm feeling, like, I know that that cannot be of God. Like, that just cannot be what this is. So something's off. But I honestly, I was like, I feel so dumb because, like, it just seemed like everyone else was getting something that I was missing, because, like, it appeared that everyone else in the church, everyone talking about God and Jesus and Christianity on Instagram, like, seemed so happy and at peace, and like they figured it all out. And I'm like, I'm freaking anxious AF over here. Like, I don't get it. What am I missing?
Yeah.
And um so then I got the ping to speak to my friend Wendell in Austin, because I just knew that she also grew up in a very religious context, and she still has a relationship with God, but she's also like spiritual in some sense. Like, it just seemed like she figured something out that I was not figuring out. So I was like, let me talk to her. And she was like, yeah, I totally know how you feel. And she like recommended some books to me, like Mary Magdalene Revealed and A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And these books really presented God and Christianity and Jesus in a way that was just like finally resonated as truth in my body. Like, there was no like resistance. It was just like, oh yes, like, it just felt like an exhale of like, okay, yeah, that I can get behind. The message was just very like of love, and that Jesus is like kind of gave us the map to coming back into union with God, and represented like this path of, again, like the death and the rebirth, that we as women actually go through every single month with our cycle. So it was bringing in like the feminine principle, where I felt that church and like mainstream, like patriarchy Christianity was really missing, and that I was like really struggling to connect with. I'm like, where is the feminine in all of this? Um, so that was a turning point there, but was still like, flash forward to this January, actually, I was still like, this was 5 years into my entrepreneurship journey, and I was still finding myself in similar patterns that I had always been in, like with money in particular,
hmm
and with men. So I'm like, I'm freaking 32 years old, like almost 32. Like, I've done all the courses. I've like done the anxious attachment course. I've read the books. I've done the like rage release practice towards my dad, like not to him, but like, visualization.
hmm
I've like written the angry letters and didn't send them. Like,
Yeah.
therapy, hypnotherapy, somatic therapy. Like, I I'm like, I've freaking done the work. The work is not working. Like, what is happening? And then like in my business, like, there just felt like so much friction. Like I wasn't making money. I was struggling to receive. Like I was still keeping my prices so low out of like fear and people pleasing. And I just got to this point where I was so just sick of my shit. I was like, I cannot go another day like this. And I finally, in that moment, was like, all right, God, like, I truly surrender. Clearly, I can't do this on my own. I don't know what I'm doing. And I wrote this prayer in my journal. I think it was on January 16th. And I was like, I I don't want to not trust men anymore. Like, please heal me or show me another perspective on this because I'm at a loss. Like, I don't know anymore. And 8 days later, I get a text from my dad, which is so random. Like, this man does not text me unless it's a simple like happy birthday. Like, we don't really talk or interact much. Get this text from my dad that's like, just wanted you to know I've been thinking about you, and I
Mm.
know that I don't engage with you much. This stuff is hard for me, but I want you to know that I'm really proud of you and I want to be more involved in your life.
Wow.
And like, I had been waiting my whole life to hear something like that from him. I didn't think I would ever hear something like that from him until he was like on his deathbed, if ever. And to receive that, like 8 days after, I finally like throw my hands in the air and make this plea, like fully. I'm like, Jesus, like, come do your thing, like, come into my life truly. Um, that text came in, but the miracle of receiving that text was actually not the content of the text itself. It was the realization that, holy shit, it was actually never about my relationship with my earthly father. Because in receiving that text, like my whole life, I had blamed all my problems on my dad. I'm like, if my dad would have just loved me and like, treated me well, I wouldn't
Mhm.
have all these problems with men. I wouldn't have these problems with money. Like everything in my life would be good if it wasn't for this. And I was directing all my energy to trying to like heal this father wound with my earthly father. And in receiving that text, I realized, oh my God, nothing changed. Like, I got the text, I got the words that I'd been waiting to hear my whole life, and my bank account was still the same. I was still single. I'm like, oh, it's actually not about him. It's about coming back into relationship with the divine father and healing that relationship. That's at least like how I interpreted that moment. That was the message that came to me in that moment. And that was when I truly surrendered. I was like, okay, like receiving that text was the point in the journey where I really was like, okay, God's here and God's hearing me. Because for 8 days later, for me to receive that, that was like huge confirmation of like, okay, he's here, he wants to help. Let me like receive this help. So that's when I really started reflecting on, well, how am I showing up in my life? Again, it was that question of like, how am I showing up in my life that is creating these patterns? And I really got like so honest with myself and was like, okay, I'm actually selfish as fuck. I looked at, you know, like, why would it be that things in my business aren't working? And I really got honest with myself and I'm like, what am I doing all this for? This is so like actually ego driven. I thrive off of the validation and like approval of people telling me like, wow, what you do, your work is so important and like so healing. I'm like, I know, thanks. Like it was like all this validation I was receiving of like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm a good person. And like, and the getting the likes and the like follows and everything. And like, I know I truly was helping people and that was coming from like on some level, like a true place of wanting to help. It wasn't all, but there was like this very subtle energy underneath there of like, this is kind of all for me and for my like ego and my image. And so yeah, I like took a hard look at that and also saw how much I was playing victim and like really waiting for someone to swoop in and like save me from the mess that I've created in my life. I'm like, oh, I'm in debt. Like, someone is gonna, I literally, like a few months before that, I was making a profile on like a sugar baby website and like looking for a sugar daddy to fix the mess. That was a low
Love
moment.
it.
And yeah, like just getting honest of like, then I started praying differently because my prayers before that were still, it was like I just replaced the word manifesting with prayer, but I was still doing the like new age, like where I had these like 2 hour morning routines where I'm like doing all the things like EFT tapping and visualization and like becoming the frequency match and like getting in the energy and all the things to like attract the things that I wanted. And I'm like making the list of like, I want 10K months and da da da, like
The
all the things,
10K months, the
right?
chokehold that had on this
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah. And I felt like I was just bending over backwards for the freaking universe to like perform and prove that I am the energy, like I am the frequency match for these things that I'm wanting. And trying to like regulate my nervous system to like be a match to all these things. And it was like just this pause of like, hold on. This is so like this is all about me and
Hmm.
what I want. And even though when I would think about my why and I would visualize my business, I'm like, yeah, I want like every woman to love her period and to feel connected with her womb. Like that was there, but it was kind of, I was almost like convincing myself that it was for other people when if I really like looked at my shit, I'm like, no, it's not though.
Yes.
It's all about me though, actually. That like that's just to look good.
Hmm.
And so I started praying differently and I was like, God, change me, like change my character. I don't want to be this like selfish, self-centered, ego-driven person anymore. Like I want to be generous. I want to be devoted to a mission that is greater than myself, that is beyond me. I want
Hmm.
to build a legacy, but I don't know how to get there right now. Like I was so like in that other mental state that I'm like, I can't even like see how to do that for myself. And that is the moment of submission and surrender. And like we get like people get so turned off by that word. And I was too, like these words of like submit and surrender and things like that. Like it feels when you look at it through that patriarchal lens, it's like, oh, why would I like bow down and just obey to this like male figure? Like, no, I'm not doing that. But it's more of this like moment of humility of being like, well, the way I've been doing it hasn't like this is where I'm at. It hasn't been working.
Hmm.
So maybe I just don't actually know what I'm doing. And maybe there's a God who does know and who has a plan. And if we just get out of our own way
Mm-hmm.
and ask for help, he's going to step in. And it doesn't have to be this like exhausting thing where you have to do it all on your own, because the new age thing is it's all on you. Like you're in control. You create your reality. You like regulate your nervous system and like do all the things. And I'm like, I'm freaking tired. Like this is exhausting. I don't want to do it all on my own anymore. And that is when the process of the ego death started happening and everything just started crumbling. And, everything that was not in alignment with God's will, everything that was not, of God in my life just started becoming so glaringly apparent to where I could
Mm-hmm.
not ignore it anymore. And all these things, these like new age practices just kind of start falling away. And I'm like questioning everything. And it was like a painful process because, again, like so much of my ego, my identity, who I was like so wrapped up in these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then to start questioning everything and unraveling, like you're just in this limbo where everything of who the old self is dying, but the new self isn't fully there yet. So you're just in the middle, like, what do I do? I'm just sitting. There were so many days where I just like
Yes.
sat on the couch, like staring into the abyss. I'm like, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer really was just like nothing. Like you're just in it, and it's just this. You're in the cocoon. Like the metamorphosis is happening, and it is painful, but that's the death part.
Mm-hmm.
um, and there's this part of you're just listening, truly like listening to those nudges that you're getting from God. And most of the time it sounds crazy and like it doesn't make any sense. Like the messages I was getting was prepare to conceive and go to Ecuador. And I'm like, the fuck? Like, like, first of all, I'm super single. Like, what do you mean prepare to conceive? And Ecuador, like, yeah, I was being told to like go to Ecuador and volunteer on this cacao farm. And Ecuador had never really been on my list before. It was not like on my bucket list or on my vision board or whatever. And I had drank cacao before and I like it, but I wasn't like, super passionate. I wasn't trying to sell cacao or like be an ambassador of cacao or something. That didn't feel like, my realm. I was like, oh, I'm like about the womb. Um, but that was the message that was coming through. And I think I'll pause there again and we'll do a little check-in because then we'll go into another part of the story.
Leaving us on a cliffhanger here.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, I relate to so much of what you said, and there was like so many things going through my mind when you were sharing. I too went through the same thing where it was a total ego death, victim mindset, business was crumbled to the ground, like having to really be fucking honest with myself.
Hmm.
Um, and also feeling like I was almost in like a timeout for a little bit in the void
Hmm.
where I was in that like disintegration, the tower moment, the like clearing. Um, and it's a lot. It really
Hmm.
is. And like you said, with your identity being so wrapped up to it, like in it, especially as an entrepreneur, when your business is feels like such an extension of you, um,
Hmm.
and then for it to crumble and for you to have to, like you said, be really honest with yourself of like, why am I doing this? And
Hmm.
I know I lost the why along the way, where it became about those 10K months. And like, I needed the 10K months to validate myself that I was actually meant to do this and I was good enough at this. And I
Mhm.
was doing all the spiritual things. Like I also had a 2 hour morning routine. I was doing the like meditations to brainwash myself and bring forth those 10K months.
Yeah.
And then when another month would go by and I wouldn't even come close to hitting it, I
Mhm.
would then turn on myself. I'm like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like, why is it okay for them but not for me? Like, what am I doing? So instead of just taking a breath, I would push harder. My ego
Mhm.
mind was like, well, you're not doing enough. So now you have to
Yes.
do A, B, C, D. Oh, well, push this, now this, right?
Mhm.
And it got to the point where I wasn't even really enjoying it anymore. And I
Yeah.
was so wrapped up in that victim mindset, which I can't remember if I've shared on an episode before or not, but when I went to a retreat in Joshua Tree, I pulled a victim mindset card. And
Mm.
I remember feeling called out, but I was just like, okay, got it. Yeah, I know. And then 2 weeks later, I go to this Valentine's Day circle and I pull the victim mindset card. I'm like, okay, I hear you. Yes, I'm a victim, but I'm still like, but this all sucks. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's easy for everyone else and not me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then a week after that, I was hosting things at a meditation studio, and the owner said, I felt called to pull a card for you today. And of course, it was the fucking victim mindset card.
Yeah.
And it was at that point where I'm like, okay, let's really figure this out. And that
Mhm.
initiated a whole deconstruction
Mhm.
um, for like 9 months. So it was a big period of like, yeah, the deconstruction, the letting go, and then getting to the point where I was no longer relying on myself or solely myself to lead my life.
Mhm.
And for anyone here who, when you hear God, that feels uncomfortable for you, you can replace this with the universe, with life, with a version of you, whatever feels right for you. But I realize that life is actually set up perfectly for us if we just let it happen. And letting
Mhm.
things happen has such a bad rap, surrendering. Like people think
Mhm.
that's doing nothing, but it's really allowing life to guide you and realizing how guided you are.
Yeah.
Realizing that whether you believe in a higher power or not, you have guides, you have loved ones who have crossed over that haven't left you. We are so guided, so supported, so held. And I wish that we realize that a bit more because when
Yeah.
we do, not only are we guided to, we get those breadcrumbs, like you said, to go to Ecuador, where you're like, what? Or prepare for
Mhm.
conception, right? Like
Mhm.
we get those breadcrumbs that we are asked to follow, and we always have a choice, but we also get the healing that we need. And what I mean by that is I was always like you were saying, like going into do the work. I was doing all the work, but I'm like, why are things still not actually working? Like you said, the work's not
Mhm.
working.
Yeah.
Life is the perfect healing course too. We are constantly given those reflections in real time to alchemize. And so it's not about
Mhm.
always having to go to the back to the past and figure out the root and blah blah blah. It's through living we actually have the most perfect healing course as well.
So beautiful. Yes. Yeah, you reminded me that I had some cards that I kept pulling too. I can't even remember what they are now, but that was part of the journey too. Of like, yep, I just slide that one
Yeah.
back. Nope, I didn't see that. Pull another, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that. And God will meet you where you are. Like, if
Mhm.
that's how He's got to come through for you, like that's how it's gonna happen. And yeah, I had a point in the journey as well where like even in this past February and March, I was still like trying to do things the old way in my business. I'm like, no, let me just try harder. Let me like try this thing, like, but still like doing the same old way that I've been doing things. And I got the message of like, just stop.
Mhm.
Like, actually just put it all down for a second, which is that surrender. And it's so scary, right? Because we're so
Mhm.
used to that, idea that we're in control, and if we put it down, like we're lazy or we're not doing something, like we gotta be doing something.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And putting it down was finally when I could actually let life, move through me and actually
Mhm.
listen to the word of God and like what he's guiding me to do, which was yeah, go to Ecuador. So
And to be present for that, to receive that, because when we're constantly
yeah.
doing and planning and like looking ahead to the future, we're not in the present moment where we can receive that
Right.
guidance and that support.
Hmm.
So you receive the guidance to go to Ecuador.
Hmm.
So what happens next?
Yes. So, so yeah, this came about through a girl, Maria. She found me on Instagram somehow, and she actually invited me to be on her podcast back in December to talk about period health stuff, womb stuff, and we kept canceling and rescheduling and rescheduling. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm just so busy with the volunteers on the cacao farm. So she's like the founder of this cacao brand. And something in me just like lit up when she said that. I was like, volunteer on a cacao farm? Like, I was like, can I do that? And she was like, yeah. She's like, you can come here and stay for 6 months if you want. I was like, maybe I'll do
Wow.
2 weeks. I was like, let me just like try it out. But
Yeah.
so thank you for that offer. But there was that desire, that pull of like, I have to go, but I'm like, but how? Like I was like in debt. I'm like, I don't have the money. Like, God, how is this gonna work? Like, there were just all these things. But I just, again, like the answer was like, just go. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay.
I have chills.
I trust you. Like
Yeah.
I trust, like so much trust.
Hmm.
Um, so I had like zero expectations going into it. I really had like no idea what we were even going to be doing there. I asked her like, "Hey, so like what's the itinerary? Like what should I pack? Like what are we doing?" And I never really got a straight answer. Um, and I came to realize like when I got there that that was because myself and the two other people like who came on this particular retreat were the first ones that she ever has taken to the actual like forest where the cacao is grown
Wow.
to meet the producers and like actually learn about that whole side of things. Normally she just has people come to her home in Quito, like the main city, where she has like a lab in her home where they like process the cacao and do the packaging and stuff like that. Um, but for us, yeah, it was that first time like going into the forest and doing that whole thing. So she didn't even know like what we were gonna get into. There was no plan actually. So I'm like walking in so blind. I have no clue like what's about to happen. Full trust. And what transpired there was just it was again like this epic confirmation of wow, like God is here working in my life. Like the places we went, like it was just so beautiful. How much I received. Like we got to go to this indigenous tribe and they did like a healing ceremony for us and
Wow.
I was chosen out of the group as the one to like receive the healing from the whole group and
Wow.
like just so many things happened that I was like there like God is here. Like there's just it's undeniable. I'm so blessed and I was just feeling so grateful. Um and like it was this it was simultaneously like that deep connection and like it just the like final kind of confirmation of this connection with the divine father like that felt fully there. And then it was the also simultaneous connection with the divine mother, Mother Earth, where
Mm.
we were in the forest and like everything was just so ceremonial. Like before we even enter the forest, we ask permission and then we enter the forest and there's this like grandmother cacao tree that they don't harvest
Mm.
from. Like she's just there as the guardian and we give offerings and prayers and just like being a part of the whole process because before I went, Maria was like, you can also like formulate your own blend to bring back home with you to sell if you want. So I actually made this womb elixir blend, and I got to be a part of that process from like the idea all the way through, from harvesting to like fire roasting the seeds to like hand peeling the seeds, the husks off the seeds, like literally like planting trees, having my hands in the dirt, um, doing the pouring and the packaging. I designed my own label for it. Like it was
So
the
cool.
whole thing.
Wow.
And it was this another initiation, right? Like that rite of passage from wounded maiden who's like the victim and who's like waiting for someone else to swoop in and fix her problems, and not taking any action in her life, and like it's all about me kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
to the mother who is devoted to this greater mission than herself. The mother is about the legacy and what can she tend to and nurture, and grow and create. And so it was like the literal answer to those prayers of God, please change my character. I don't want to be this like selfish, self-centered person. I want to
Mm-hmm.
care about something beyond me. And the whole message of that trip was about earth conservation and sustainability, because for the commercial chocolate industry, there's so much exploitation, there's so much extraction, so much misuse of, I don't even want to use the word use, like just not in relationship with the earth, which is like the template of mother that we've become so disconnected from. And so the whole thing was this like reunion with the mother
Mm.
and the father at the same time. And that is where the wholeness came in, where I truly
Wow.
felt this like inner union, this wholeness, this peace, and this belonging.
Mm.
Like the belonging was the huge piece, because I feel like that's the other very subtle sense that we feel is missing, especially when we're in this like new age thing. It's like, who do I belong to? Where do I belong? And I think that a lot of women, like we're looking for that in the human men in our life. We're looking for that in that relationship, like to be claimed and to belong to a man, which like is like there's something to that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's not like a human man like can't actually give you that safety that you're craving. Like only the divine father can do that, because a man, like he can leave, or he can, God forbid, like die, like if we're basing all of our safety and security in that like he's just a human, and so it was that realization of like surrendering and just like relaxing in the arms of the divine father and
Mm-hmm.
the divine mother, and just feeling so held and so whole, and like, wow, I really don't need these things outside of myself that I thought I did. Like it really is all within, but not in the new age way of like it's within and I'm the one like creating, I'm the one like, all that. It's like this piece is here if we are open to truly receive it, to like truly lay it all down and let go and just fully trust. Um, and the the final kind of like realization that I had was I thought that the prize of coming back into union with God was going to be the money, the relationship, all those, material like
Mm-hmm.
external things that I saw from all the people on Instagram who were like, I, came back to Jesus and now I'm wealthy and like all those things. Like at the beginning, like that's why I was doing it. Again, it was
Mm-hmm.
very shallow. Like I was praying, but it was for that, like to get something. I'm like, what can I get from God? It was this very transactional relationship. And the switch was, what can I give? How can I be of service to you, God? Like, how, like, use me to, heal the earth and humanity. Like, how can I be of service? Um, and so that was where, like, that's the prize, the inner peace that I now feel to have God with me and to know that He's with me always at all times, regardless of like lifing. Like, like that is the true prize. So
Ah, I love
that
that.
that is the conclusion of the story, pretty much.
That is so beautiful.
Mhm.
I love so much what you said, but just some things that are like coming to mind is how you had this nudge to go to Ecuador, and then you had this thought, the human thought of how the fuck am I going to afford this? Like, okay, I have this nudge, but I don't see the bridge.
Mhm.
And I have been there time and time again. And what I think is a really important piece for everyone to remember is that, like, if you have this nudge, it's like it's supported. It will be supported. You just have to trust that. The money will come in the most mysterious way. Things
Mhm.
will happen. People will, step up or whatever. You will have, like, and that's any time that I'm in that situation and I start to panic or doubt, I'm just reminded, no, I wouldn't have been led here if I wasn't meant to be here and if I wasn't going to be there. Like there
Mhm.
is a bridge being built and just trusting that, or there already is a bridge and you just need to walk.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that was just such a beautiful illustration of that.
Mhm.
And I love that coming back to wholeness is kind of releasing our attachments to what we believe is what we need or what makes us worthy or what makes us I don't know what's worth continuing on.
Mhm.
Is just remembering that we already have that within and we are so supported and guided.
Mhm.
And the other thing I just wanted to like really highlight in what you said was that question of how can I be of service today? How can you work through me? And I think that's
Yeah.
such a beautiful question, especially for anybody who's working kind of like in this space or being of service in this space is a question to come back to every morning because just
Mhm.
like how we've talked about that ego deconstruction and having that still as I'm navigating this, I have those moments where I catch myself with the old programming, the old story of falling back to it. It's like, no, let's come back to this. How can I be of
Mhm.
service and trust that I'm being led and
Mhm.
supported? So thank you so much for sharing your amazing
Mhm.
story and journey back to wholeness, and kind of how it's supported you as you move forward and as you lead from this space, from this new energy. So I just can't thank you enough. And thank you for trusting this space, this podcast to be so open and to share.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And to close another loop on the message I was getting around prepare for conception, prepare to
Yeah.
conceive. Um, After that whole trip to Ecuador and this like being initiated into the mother archetype, was I came back and just this like creative storm like happened. And it finally, after like kind of integrating all of that, it finally made sense where uh, it was about helping other women like consciously prepare to conceive through this journey of coming back to wholeness,
Mm.
through coming back to their wombs and earth and God through rite of passage and ceremony. So that is the offer that came through, and it was just
Wow.
so crazy because at the beginning of the year, I was forcing this other offer that just like did not feel. I was like so bored by it. I'm like, I'm not excited about this. Does not feel aligned, but I was still trying to like force it because I'm like, well, this has like kind of worked in the past, and this
Mm-hmm.
is just what I know. So, and I need to make money, so like yeah, I'm just gonna do that. But when I finally like put it all down and would just stopped, was when I could finally hear the messages from God that were going to lead me on the journey that allowed the birth of this new thing coming from this like new version of me, basically. And
Wow.
so it is it's a 3 or 6 month journey of we meet once a month for ceremony around different themes. So the first one that I like to bring everyone through is that reclamation of your first period story. So it's a
Mm,
ceremony around giving your inner girl that rite of passage that she never received and healing that relationship with your period. Um, and then there is walking through mother wounds and coming back into relationship with the divine mother, father wounds, coming back
mm,
into relationship with the divine father. There's also ceremony around if it applies to you, like pregnancy loss or release. So if you have experienced abortion or miscarriage or infant loss, there is closure and healing around that. Sexual trauma is another one. And then I think the last one is uh, clearing around any like past lovers that you want to
mm.
like clear that energy from your womb space. And so it's really this walk of consciously tending to the fertile soil of your womb and making it like a beautiful home for this spirit baby to enter. And if you sign up for the 6 month journey, you will also have a spirit baby reading, not with myself but with another trusted guide,
Wow.
psychic medium. So yeah, and it's just so beautiful because my I have felt the presence of my spirit daughter come through. Like I just feel so strongly that I'm going to have a daughter, and everything that I've been doing ever since I felt her presence was for her. It's like, okay,
Mm,
like when I'm, dating men, I'm like, is this going to be her father? Like that's what I'm thinking about,
yeah.
because I want to, give her the father that I didn't feel that I had, and heal that generational, thing. So yeah, I can share the link of that with you if anyone's interested. And I will be doing a free um, ceremony called Becoming the Vessel. That
Mm.
is kind of a mini initiation from that maiden to mother journey. I don't have a date for that yet, but yeah, if you follow me on Instagram, that is where I share all the things. So yeah.
Perfect. And I'll put Dana's a link to both the ceremony and the program, as well as Dana's Instagram below. I highly recommend following Dana. What you post, I'm always am so inspired, and the way you talk about our cycle and the womb, I feel like is so needed and so appreciated. And it's so funny when you were talking earlier, I'm like, Dana needs to do something on the journey from maiden to mother. And you're already there. Amazing. So
uh,
that sounds so supportive and incredible, and a reminder of how much our womb space holds.
mhm,
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
mhm,
Um, on this, I didn't tell you about this earlier, so we can pause if we need a minute.
mhm,
But I like to end each episode with a card pull. And when
mhm.
a guest is on, I like to invite them to pull a card. Are
Okay.
you open to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, amazing. I know we didn't talk about it, so if you want to take a minute and
Yeah, no
grab a
worries.
deck.
Yes, let's see. Yeah, I'm feeling my sacred cycles
How
deck.
perfect.
That feels appropriate. Ooh, we have labia.
Perfect.
Let's see what that one's about.
See what message wants to come through.
Says, I am protected,
Mm,
encompassing the external structures of the genital area. The labia surrounds and protects the delicate and powerful parts of the inner generative space. Acting as a guardian and pleasure center, it can also hold on to unprocessed emotions and experiences. Take note of anything that feels a bit exposed or raw at this time and consider how you might give more care to this cherished part of you. In the past, it might have felt liberating and important to share this part of yourself with the world, but now the same part is calling for an internal, nurturing vibration instead. If you are considering whether to bring a new creation or aspect of yourself into the light for others to see, be sure to give yourself plenty of time and space to discern whether this is in alignment and conjures a sense of pleasure. Let joy be your guiding light. And then there's a journal prompt that says, where in my life do I need to show up as the protector for what is precious to me?
Mm.
Mhm.
I love that. I feel like it really encompasses what we talked about of being protected, being supported, and
Mhm.
alignment of really tuning in with our why. Why are we doing this? And does it feel aligned?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And like that mother energy of also like being the protector of what you are stewarding, like of your
Mm-hmm.
creation, what is precious to you, um, your
Yeah.
legacy, because there's that like fierce mama energy of
Mm-hmm.
the protector. So,
And the
that's
reminder to follow the joy.
yes, in the illustration, it's like the yoni, and in the center, it kind of looks, it's like a portal to,
Mm.
the universe. And that's, yeah, that's how it feels to me when I say like our womb center, our yoni is our direct channel access to the divine. Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for pulling the card and for
Yeah.
sharing your journey and your story on today's episode. I have so enjoyed chatting with you and hearing more about, yeah, just your journey from one side to the other. Not that there's even sides,
Mm-hmm.
but just on this whole spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for sharing all those beautiful nuggets of wisdom as well along the way. As I said, I will put Dana's information in the show notes. You can go check out her offerings and her Instagram. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And if there was anything in this podcast that really stuck out to you that you want to chat more about, we are here.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
I would love to hear, if anything resonated with people about my story. So feel free to DM me and share anything that came through. And yeah, thank you so much again, Kalina. This was so fun.
Yay. All about following the joy.
Hmm.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.